This whole year, our theme is Beyond 2020 Spiritual Vision. We're learning to see clearly through to the truth of things. And this month, our topic is I Clearly See the Power of Nonviolence. We're talking about Mahatma Gandhi, who inspired the world with his approach to social reform through nonviolence. He inspired the world. He inspired Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and countless other people. He was a world changer. And he himself was influenced by the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. So I thought we'd begin with one of the quotes that inspired him from the Gita. I believe it's chapter 2. One who is not connected with the Supreme, or God consciousness, can have neither transcendental intelligence, spiritual intelligence, nor a steady mind, without which there's no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So he strived to have a steady mind on his spirituality, his focus. That makes sense to me, because to me there comes a peace when I am consciously aware of my connection with spirit. Oh, and that's a daily practice. That's something I have to keep refreshing my consciousness to stay aware of that connection. Here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Santa Rosa, whenever we have a meeting, a business meeting, a staff meeting, any kind of meeting, the first thing we do before we don't just jump into business, we take time to remember that connection exists. It's there. So we sit, we contemplate, we pray together, say our spiritual mind treatment. We read our sacred covenant, for whatever it takes for us to bring that into the center of our awareness. And that practice changes the meeting and the outcome of the meeting. It's very important. And as I continue to read and learn more about Mahatma Gandhi, it's clear to me he must have had some similar focus, some similar practice, because his power to move people and governments, well, it didn't come from a desire to control anything or to destroy anything or to get even with anyone. No, it came from this connection that he tried to be steadily minded, focused on. So he had a daily practice. So for him, his practice was to keep his mind focused on what God was to him. And I think that was the key to his life's success. And, he said, my life is my message. And at the center of his life was God. If you think about it, that's what's going on for you and me in our lives. Whatever it is that is at the center of our lives, that's where our message comes from. Or we can say it like this: whatever we are steadily focused on shapes us. Or we can say, wherever we land our awareness, our attention, and we persistently go back to that thing over and over, like we're worshiping it, well, that influences how we show up. It becomes the God of our existence. It becomes our message. At the Center for Spiritual Living, we've been exploring all year what this word God means. For some people, it's a difficult word. And if you want to catch up, then look at the videos from January, because we unpacked it very wonderfully, so you can catch up that way. And briefly, God is a shorthand term for an immense idea that some people call divinity or spirit. It's that from which everything comes. And here in our teaching in Science of Mind, we start with saying, whatever it is, there's only one of it. It's the only thing going on. And apparently it's not important what word we use, what name we name it with, since all words and all names are limited anyway. Some prefer terms such as life or nature or the force or divine mind or creation or the universe, and others prefer images that feel more intimate, perhaps like spirit or God or Allah or Jesus or Kuan Yin, etc. in our teaching, we accept that the divine appears in as many forms and more as there are people to think about it. Which is why when you hear our prayers, you hear a whole range of terms. We hear he, she, it, mother, father, lover of my soul, Lord. Emerson called it the oversoul. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, called it the thing itself, the all-good, the universal mind, the creative genius, the indwelling spirit. And really, what this brings up is, what do you call it? And what is it to you? And does it occupy a central place in your life? One of my favorite explanations of it comes from The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, written by Thaddeus Goles, an old book. And he says in it, the universe is made up of one kind of whatever it is, which cannot be defined. For our purpose, it isn't necessary to try to define it. All we need to do is assume that there is only one kind of whatever it is, and see if it leads to a reasonable explanation for the world as we know it. I just love that. I read it over and over again. So whatever it is, the question for us today, does it occupy a central place in your life? Does your relationship to whatever it is make a good difference in your life and in your world? Again, thinking about how your life's message comes from whatever it is that has a central place in your life, it starts to make sense that I want to make sure that I put that in the center of my life. You know, Gandhi called whatever it is, he called it truth. And he said, my aim is to be consistent with truth at any given moment. He made the truth the center of his life's focus. And he also said that this truth of his, this spirit, could have any one of 1,000 different names. And that the main thing for you and me, I guess, is to keep whatever the divine, whatever the thing itself is, in focus. Let it become the center of my universe, of your universe. So I'll give you a little story from the history of astronomy that might explain it. Are you ready? Good. Because I'm not sure if I'm going to get this right. Galileo was an Italian astronomer, and during his time the world followed Ptolemy's system of astronomy, which was problematic. And Galileo had a suspicion that there was something wrong because it was so complicated. And the problem was that Ptolemy had put the earth at the center of the universe and said the sun rotates around the earth, the moon rotates around the earth, the stars rotate around the earth. And because it was wrong, the mathematical calculations were so complicated, to force it to work. You get the idea? Yeah? See, and there was another astronomer, Copernicus. He had a better idea, much simpler. He put the sun at the center of it all, and his idea turned out to be correct, even though it wasn't accepted for a very, very, very long time. It turned out to be correct because everything was in its correct place. And because everything was in the right place, it made elegant, beautiful sense, and it worked. Now, this can be very helpful as a guide for us, as a guide to the correct order of things in our spiritual life. Because you may have already noticed that when your ego thinks that it is the center of the universe, things become unnecessarily complicated to explain because the theory is faulty. And then you have to make elaborate calculations to convince people. So let's move on to the solution. The solution is to get our attention back to the thing that is indeed the center of our universe, the divine presence that is in me and in you and all beings. So it is everywhere. Then I am in the center of the universe and it is in me. Another way to say that is put God, or whatever word you use for God, put God first. Put her first. Put it at the center of your being. Put him where you can't miss him. Wake up with your mind on the divinity in all life. Go to bed with spirit on your mind. Get up, eat, drink, play, with the creative genius as your filter, as your priority, and then synchronize your attention to that which matters the most. And then try in your life to be what spirit is to you, like Gandhi did. Try in your life to be steady-mindedly focused on what spirit is to you, like Gandhi did. Try consulting within where the center of the universe resides before you do anything, before you say anything, like Gandhi did. Try to make the purpose of your interactions and relationships to be to release that which lives in you, to express the truth, like Gandhi did. Your life's message is coming from what currently is at the center of your universe. So this is an example I tell all the time because it made such an impact on me. A long time ago, I went to visit a childhood friend. We grew up together in South Africa, and then he emigrated to England, and I came to the United States. And we hadn't seen each other for many years, so I called up, and we planned to get together. And he said, my little brother is so excited that you're coming. And I went, little brother? There was such an age gap between the two of them that when we were growing up together, I didn't even notice the little brother. I'd forgotten that he was part of the family. Anyway, I got to the front door and knocked on, and the little brother opened. He said, "Oh, Edward, I am so glad to see you. You are my role model." That's awkward. I said, "Really, why?" He said, "Well, because you were always so rebellious and bucking the system, and you were always getting out of school and smoking behind the..." And I went, "Oh, my God." Oh. See, I didn't even know he was watching. I didn't realize that my life was communicating a message. I didn't know that because I'd put my rebelliousness and disdain and scorn at the center of my world. That not only was I shaping my life experience, but I was shaping the world. A teaching of Jesus comes to mind. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be too. So we are invited to look at our priorities. Check in. What is currently important to me? Because that's creating something for my life, and not just for my life, for the world. That's affecting how I feel, think, communicate, play, spend my money, my time, and my energy. What currently occupies the most important part of my consciousness is where the message rises up from. And what will they who follow me say? And what will they who follow you say that they learned about life from witnessing ours? Well, now, maybe you didn't have a good role model in your life. And maybe your parents weren't the best they could. Maybe they were doing the best job they knew how with the information they had at the time, and they just didn't know how to do any better, And now it's our turn. And now we have an opportunity to change that story up. We get to rewrite the script and set something else in motion, a different influence on the world, by letting what we focus on become the message we wish to impart. The song that we heard sung earlier this morning, so beautiful. It's composed by John McCutcheon, and it gives us an example of someone whose life was his message, an example of someone who let himself be guided by his focus so that he was able to contribute something to a world that worked a little bit better in the midst of disastrous circumstances. It's called The Streets of Sarajevo, and it tells the famous story of the cellist of Sarajevo, and his name was Vedran Smailovic. And his story goes something like this. When Sarajevo was besieged in 1992 by the Yugoslavian People's Army, and it lasted for 1,000 days, it was called the Bosnian War, the cellist, Vedran, would regularly play his cello inside the ruined, bombed buildings. He refused to let what was going on stop him from expressing his art, his beauty, because of what was going on. He would not let it distract him from what was at the center of his universe. Even after the opera theater was destroyed, and 22 of his friends were killed, neighbors were killed while standing in line to get food rations. So daily he got up and he offered his art as a prayer. He played in the ruins, at the bomb sites, in graveyards, and at funerals, even though snipers often targeted people at the funerals. He played on. Now, our teaching encourages us to get clear on what is at the center of your universe. What is the divine to you? What is the guiding force in your life? And does it have a central place in your life? So our practice is to keep on remembering that. That's why when we pray, we begin with God, or any word that you use, substitute. God is everything. God is in everything. God is in and through everything. God is above and below and beside. And everything is made out of God's stuff. And wherever you go, there she is. And whatever you do, there he is. And whatever you think, it is thinking through you. And God is in the clothes you're wearing, and God is in the breath you're breathing, and God is your breath, and God is your heart, and God is your soul, and God is the witness of your soul and your mind, and God is where you are, and God is in the field and the flowers, and God is in everyone and everything, and God is in the unsheltered and in the sheltered and in the beautiful, and everything that we have judged, and everything that we have labeled, and everything that we run toward, and everything that we run from. Oh, it is a great and wonderful mystery that it is so. And we don't know why it is so, but we sense it. We sense that the universe is made up of one kind of whatever it is. It is a puzzle. And I know we still have to deal with the harsh realities of a world seemingly gone mad recently. Some say it's in terrible shape. The world. Some say we are divided as we have never been divided before. And I know it can get discouraging when I make that the focus and the center of my reality. And I also notice that when I practice the practice of bringing my mind regularly back to what God is to me, that it feeds me in a way that the world never can. The practice of bringing my mind back into focus inspires me to do what good I can do in the presence of a mess. The practice causes me to love when it is difficult to love. The practice allows me to see through to the truth that we are not divided and never were. And when it appears to me that we are divided, that's my opportunity to bring my focus back and to bring that which is alive in me out into the world. And to be again and again to see the world through the filter of there is only one kind of whatever it is. Oh, I know. It takes courage to look adversity in the face and say, surely the presence of God is in this place. How must I speak to this? Yes, I know it takes practice when disaster strikes. To say, I know that peace is at the heart of God and the heart of God is in me. What is mine to do? I know it takes bravery when things are hurting, and difficult, and frightening to say, the spirit of life within me is greater than that which lies before me. How shall I walk? Some say it's not as easy as it sounds, this practice. I know. I know what a challenge it can be to practice, and still I have this thought, maybe that when I start putting the divine back at the center of my universe more and more, maybe things will sort themselves out. Maybe it will get easier. It's worth trying. So then the practice is, when things get complicated, stressful and frightening, to take a moment to breathe, get still, and check within, and to ask, what am I worshiping? Ask myself, what is my attention on? What am I giving first place in my mind? And do I need to put the radiant sun of the divine back in its place at the center of my being? I have a friend who has a practice, it's a simple practice that I think is very helpful. He takes his cell phone on and puts an alarm on for a random time. His time is 3:33 p.m. And so as he's going about his day and the alarm goes off, he stops and asks himself, where is my mind at this moment? And do I need to gently bring it back to the truth? And if he's with his children, he says to them, tell me 3 things that you're grateful for right now. So beautiful and so simple. Now today's closing prayers and meditation, and yes, I did print them out for you, which you can pick up from me on your way out. I invite you to take a breath in with me and exhale and let these words be as if they are your own words in your consciousness. I believe in the power of God, the living Spirit, and know that its law of good operates upon this word of my prayer. So I speak this prayer with complete freedom. I speak it with enthusiasm and joy. I speak it with a deep sense of calmness and peace because I know that divine intelligence governs me and that my word is a channel of inspiration through which its guidance continually flows through to me. I am completely receptive to this guidance and live in a consciousness of joyful expectation of a greater good, acknowledging that God around me, in me, and through me is the only power there is operating in all I do, say, and think. I let this power direct me into constructive channels of self-expression. And I release all thought of fear from my mind. I lay down the burden of carrying the load of responsibility for life for myself or others. I lay all trouble aside for this moment so that I may seek to look through, beyond, above, into the realm of truth. I allow the divine wholeness to flow through me into ever-widening fields of activity. There is a new influx of inspiration into my thoughts, and I am conscious of my divine birthright. The divine presence interprets itself to me in this moment, and all is well with my soul. And together we say, and so it is. I invite you to take a deep breath with me like this. And to sigh.